Welcome back to Keeping Ag Real. This is Jenny Schweigert. I'm a mom, wife, chauffeur, sheep and cattle herder, front porch obsessor, and your host. Keeping Ag Real is part of the Farm and Rural Ag Network, your one-stop shop for the best agriculture podcasts and vlogs. Visit www.farmruralag.com for more information. Today's episode is sponsored by Bayer CropScience, providing access to crop protection safety data through their new transparency initiative. So what does this mean? It translates to Bayer sharing the scientific data they're using when evaluating plant protection products, and they want to share that with you. Google the words Bayer and transparency to quickly find the new website and learn how you can love the facts. Welcome back to Keeping Ag Real. This is Jenny Schweigert, and today I am interviewing Kyle Tom from Tom Farms. Hi Kyle, how are we?
Oh, we're doing great today. How are you doing?
I am doing great. We are both in California, in Anaheim, and it is beautiful outside, much better than Illinois and Indiana.
Yes, it is. Very happy to be here at the Commodity Classic and for the Bayer AgVocacy Forum. Yeah.
Yes, you're here to speak at the 2018 Bayer Advocacy Forum. Can you start out, we're going to touch on that, but can you start out by just kind of giving us a brief synopsis of your family farm?
So Tom Farms was established in 1837, so I'm actually 8th generation farmer. And
that is incredible.
And it's a 100% family owned and operated farm. There are actually 3 generations on the farm right now, and my kids are coming back. I have a 16-year-old coming back to the farm as soon as he, of course, graduates high school and college. So we'll have 4 generations on the farm at that point in time, and that's a very rare thing nowadays to have that many generations.
It is, definitely. I have a 15-year-old. And the idea, he wants to go right, into farming, but my philosophy is that he needs to go out into the world and definitely have, at a very minimum, an associate's degree to have something kind of as a backup plan. And so is that kind of your thinking too?
Minimum of an associate's degree. I would like for them to go out and get their
bachelor's.
Bachelor's to master's. Because farming isn't just your mom and pop throwing seeds in the ground anymore. It's a true business. The only difference between us and, say, a car manufacturer is, we're both manufacturing products, but our roof leaks.
That's a good analogy, When you're talking about that, there's a huge disconnect definitely between the general public and the food that they consume. But one area that we are maybe lacking in is actually talking about where a lot of the corn and beans, how that plays into fuel, fiber, and everyday things like plastic and things like that. That's just not something that we hear a lot about. Is that something we're missing the boat on?
No, I don't think we're really missing the boat. I mean, a lot of people know that we have to provide fuel and fiber to the world.
But do they know it's coming from agriculture products grown in the fields?
I don't believe people know where their food comes from in some areas of the world. I did a study in Chicago. It's probably been about 10 years now, but I went up to 100 people and said, hey, where does your food come from? And they actually said the grocery store. Well, how's it get to the grocery store? Well, then they said, well, I don't know, probably comes from a truck, from a warehouse somewhere. There's so much of a disconnect nowadays from when, if you look at, say, 30, 40 years ago, almost everybody in the U.S. had a tie to, or a family member involved in a farm.
Right.
And now there's such a disconnect that, they just don't know where food comes from, and that's a little scary to me.
Especially when we get into technology, and that's really, I think, where I want to focus a lot of our time today. Do you feel that we are behind the times when it comes to technology?
I would say technology in agriculture is probably lagging a little bit behind the times, but it's catching up. There's so many people in Silicon Valley that are focusing on agriculture nowadays. So you've got the Googles, the Yahoos, and there's a lot of things coming down the pipeline that people don't know about yet.
And there was actually, I was out here in California a couple trips ago. Our Uber driver was an engineer who was working on designing a machine that made smoothies, fresh smoothies, and the machine had fresh fruit and everything in it. He did not come from a farming background or even, food background. And what he could tell us about what he had learned was really extraordinary, and what he had to have learned in order to work on engineering this machine.
Yeah, because it's not just engineering the machine to do a certain job. It's understanding, the fruits and vegetables and everything that goes into it.
Right, and it's shelf life and the milk, and definitely. So what do you think on the precision ag level? What is the up and coming thing? There's tons of products out there that we would all love to have, but the reality is the markets are not realistic for that right now. What's a product that's really going to, help the bottom line as well as allow producers to be progressive?
So we've been doing some testing with Granular. They're a software company, and yes, they did just get bought out by Pioneer. But I tell you what, it's really helped kind of streamline our software, and we know exactly what our inputs are. We know exactly how much we're making, how much we're losing in certain fields. And, if you can really narrow that down, field specific, it's phenomenal. Because, right now we were looking at a field and it's like, well, we're spending X amount on it. Our net return, doesn't cover that cost. So we need to actually get rid of that field. We no longer need to farm it just because there's no point in doing it if you're not making money at it. Another technology that we're really looking into is crop scouting by airplane or drone. So
tell me more about that.
There's a company I actually just met with this week. I believe it's called Tenorus, and they're out of Israel. And the pictures that they are able to get back to us, they can cover about 1,000 acres with a drone a day and 10,000 acres with a airplane a day. And the technology that they have nowadays is their pictures are so good, they can actually pinpoint, let's say, a Japanese beetle or any species of weed, and it automatically detects it, so that's a hot spot. And so it's very interesting. You've got a hot spot out there. Well, it shows what it is, so you can see it. Okay, well, and you can kind of make plans around that. Okay, well, we have a hot spot here, and we know that there's, let's say, giant ragweed or a certain bug out there that we just have to go take care of. Because all in all, if we don't take care of it, that hurts our bottom line.
And so how does that work? Do you get your maps downloaded to you?
Yes. So they'll be sent to us, and say any hot spot out in the field, it'll automatically detect it, and it'll show up. So we can, if there's, let's say it's a 200 acre field, and it's only say 10 acres of it has grasses in it.
Right.
We go over there and we take care of the grass. Then we don't have to cover the whole field.
And what's the?
And the time savings also from our crop scout is less.
What is the turnaround time for getting those maps back?
Same day.
Oh, okay, very good. Are there any other technologies that maybe are kind of off the beaten path that you're hearing about?
There's probably a lot more coming down the path that we don't know about, but those two are really two that I'm really excited about. It's not only the software and the digital side; it's also the technology in corn and chemicals that's coming down the pipeline that actually I'm very excited about.
So speaking of chemicals, is there something that technology today can do to intervene with the dicamba situation?
Well, we have to be properly trained on how to use the dicamba. Luckily on my farm, we did not have any problems with it this year, but I know a lot of people that did. So we have to have an integrated drift retardant in there. That's number one, and just be cognizant on how to apply it and when to apply it, and
go through the training.
Yeah, Indiana. I've got the guys going to one in 2 weeks, and it's got to be a certified instructor that they give you the card and say yes, you have gone through this training and you understand the training. So I think it's nice that the states are stepping up and saying, okay, yes, if we don't do something, then there will be something wrong in the backside, and we might not have the dicamba technology in the future.
So you anticipate changes this coming spring?
I think you'll see a lack of damage. Before, people would just go out there and almost consider it like a Roundup. Just go spray. Granted, yes, it says on the label, when to spray, when not to spray. Make sure you don't spray in a temperature inversion. But yeah, I mean, if people actually adhere to the law and label says, would be best by far. If you don't do that, then your claims are going to be through the roof.
Right.
I mean, you're going to have a lot more claims, and insurance companies or EPA will not be happy. Then we'll lose it.
Right. Well, thank you for diving into that.
No problem.
So what kinds of technologies are you using on your farm? Do you do experiments?
We are not building things on our own right now, but we do a lot of beta testing for different companies. Like for instance, the granular. We did beta testing on that technology, on that software. We're doing different things with Monsanto. There's a few technologies out there that we are doing some beta testing on that I can't talk about.
Sure.
It's exciting to see what is coming down the pipeline if it all holds together and it proves that it's a viable technology.
Well, our time is about up. Is there anything else that you think that is pertinent to the technology scene?
Well, when I look at technology, I'm so optimistic about it. And if you look at where we've come from in the past and where we're going to in the future looks very bright. And I'm just excited about it because, if you look back at, when auto steer first came on into the tractors in 99, 2000, when it really started ramping up, everybody thought that was amazing.
Best thing since sliced bread.
And it still is. It still amazes me that I can get in a tractor and hit a button and I don't have to steer, or, I can focus on what's going on behind me. But if you look at what technology most likely is coming down the road in the future, in the next 5 years, in the next 10, 20, 30 years, it's going to be phenomenal.
Do you think that the marketplace right now is going to make that slower?
I believe it'll be slower to adapt because the financial side will not allow it. Unless these companies come out with a lower cost for the user. If it's a good product, we'll pay for it. And we'll be excited about it.
And what do you think the Farm Bill going to do? Do you think that that's going to play a role?
Does anybody really know what's going to go on there? But it changes so often. It's going to play a role. You've got the Farm Bill, you've got NAFTA, you've got the tax structure. So there's so many things that play into the farm side that the average Joe doesn't know about.
Right.
And so if you look at all that combined, everything's going to play a role in agriculture.
Very true. Well, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. How can people find you on social media if they have questions that they'd like to ask?
So I've got a Facebook account, Kyle Tom, Twitter account, Kyle A. Tom. And
are you pretty active on Twitter?
I'm probably not as active as Tom Farms is.
We need to get you working on that.
I know. Tom Farms, my sister Cassie does a great job with our social media on Tom Farms, but I tend to look at other things instead of Facebook and Twitter. But it's a viable thing that we have to do nowadays to keep informed and keep other people informed.
Well, you can visit Keeping Ag Real, and you can also follow me on Twitter at Jen Schweigert, as well as at Keeping Ag Real, and then go to Facebook and search for Keeping Ag Real. Don't forget to keep it real.